Hello. We're gonna see if we can beat Elden Ring today with only 99 intelligence. This means no leveling any other stats besides intelligence at the start of our run. Now, this challenge is harder than you'd think, and I'll explain in just a second, but first we have to create our character. While Astrologer would have been a great pick for this playthrough, it still didn't quite have the stats I wanted, notably strength and endurance, and since we'll be stuck with our base stats on pretty much everything, we'll have to go with Wretch, which all things considered isn't that bad. As for my ultimate character, I assembled this abomination by moving sliders all the way to 0 or 255. Now, a character this majestic is deserving of a glorious name, and I see no better fit than Billy the Wizard. The only thing we have left to do now is pick our starting item, and for that I went with the Lands Between runes so we can purchase some spells later. With character creation out of the way, we can finally let the fun begin, so grab yourself an ice cold Baja Blast and let's get into it. I really suck at Grafted Scion, and I don't want to waste my time trying to get 3200 runes and a sword I can't use, so we're just gonna have to take the easy way out. After a short cutscene, we're able to grab our flasks, head out into the open world, and let the Collectathon begin. Now, I have a very long list of items to grab, the first of which being Torrent, because that'll make moving around way easier. While I run over there, I'm just going to take a quick minute to thank everyone who's been subscribing to the channel lately. We're at 1.4k, which is just mind-boggling to me, and hey, if you enjoy these videos, then make sure to join up because it really helps me and it's free for you. Oh, looks like you finally made it to Melina. I think it's time to upgrade to 99 intelligence. Now, that was our only upgrade for the rest of the playthrough, which means we're stuck with this piddly amount of FP for a while. But we should be okay because the weapon we're about to get will remedy that completely. To actually access this weapon, we first need to make our way down to Agil Lake for the chest teleporter. From there, we weave through Bug Tunnel and out to the swamps. Before we head to the city though, we pick up the Rotten Stray Ashes because it can apply 25 to 30 Scarlet Rot buildup each hit, which will be a huge boost for some early bosses. With that out of the way, we can grab the Golden Seed and light the 3 flames, which gives us access to our first boss, Nox Swordstress and Nox Monk. This usually isn't too hard of a boss. However, at our current level, we're getting beat even harder than Dad's Belt, which is a problem because one of the only rules of this run is to not level anything else. I was able to develop a strategy though. Pop Psychopath Roar at the start and spam jump attacks. This worked insanely well, and before I knew it, they were both eating dirt. At this point, you've probably figured out what we're going for here, but in case you don't study every inch of Elden Ring and actually go outside, then I'll explain. We get Lusat's Staff, which in my opinion is one of the most fun spell tools for Glintstone builds. It gives us a boost to our sorcery power at the cost of 50% more FP used. However, it also scales quite high with intelligence, giving us around 204 sorcery damage with no upgrades whatsoever. Regardless of what you think, you've gotta admit, that's pretty good for early game. Our staff is as useless as a broken pencil without actual spells, so we have to make our way down to Waypoint Ruins to get to Selen. From there, we can buy Glintstone Pebble and Glintstone Stars, which finally gives us some true sorceries to use. With these sorceries, we can take on Margit, which I'll do in just a second. However, there's one last thing we have left to grab, and that's the Physic Flask. The only thing we can actually do with this right now is heal, but there's 2 tiers I have in mind for late game. Also, I won't worry about upgrading my wand right now because it'll be more than enough for the areas we're currently in. Let me show you with Margit. We start this off by setting flasks to 2 and 4 so we don't run out of FP. From there we walk into the arena and fire 1 Glintstone Pebble, the pebble that changed the world, the shot that started the war, and also did a whopping 236 damage. As you probably guessed, this was absolutely way too easy. I mean, we were here with just 1 FP bar, and combining the fact that his only ranged attack did this to my health bar makes this fight a literal joke. In second phase, I got a little too close and was on the verge of death. However, we have 2 healing flasks for a reason, so I drank those bad boys like my life depended on it. I guess it kinda did. I kid you not, I have like 45 seconds of footage for this fight, so this is all we have. Our health by the end isn't looking too nice though, but this was still a first attempt boss, so I'll take it. We're gonna move on up to the crippled old man now and disappoint him like I disappoint my father every day. From there we run through the castle and try our best to dodge the fire from above. I surprisingly made it first try and picked up yet another golden seed because we're going to need every last drop of FP. At this point, we've made it to Godrick, and this is where my rotten wolf ashes come into play. We first have to summon it, obviously, then distract Godrick like he's an iPad kid trying not to scroll YouTube shorts every 3 seconds. This worked surprisingly well, and we actually got Rod off pretty quick, which gave us a nice, easy transition to phase 2, where I sat in the back like a coward and got cheap shots off wherever I could. As you can see, we're still doing some great damage, and with Rot, this fight was more than trivial. With this out of the way, we can finally grab our first Great Rune and head down to Liurnia, where I say screw that and head back to Limgrave and Caelid for the Dectus medallions. Speaking of Dectus medallions, look at this cool rock I found while staying at a cabin. It kinda looks like one. You're probably wondering, old boy C, why would you do that? You don't even have 2 Great Runes. And the answer to that, my adoring fans, is the Cerulean Hidden Tier. It gives us unlimited FP for 10 seconds, which is absolutely ginormous. Now, this one's located at the Erd Tree in Volcano Manor, which is quite the trek. It wouldn't be half as bad if these ladders weren't absurdly long though. That was probably George R.R. Martin's contribution to Elden Ring. Anyways, I won't bore you with the journey, though I probably should for that sweet ad revenue. But we eventually found ourselves facing down an ulcerated tree spirit, which I'll tell you right now is not very fun with glintstone pebbles. However, I live by the words of that one Big Nate character, that which does not kill you, makes you stronger. And while it did kill me, numerous times, I learned a valuable lesson. Never do a challenge run again. Anyway, this is what each glintstone pebble was doing to the guy, and with 6 cerulean tears and some wolves by our side, we were able to take down the fat blob with lots of pain and suffering. We won't suffer for much longer though with the spell we're about to get, because it perfectly complements this tier. Getting to it is a huge pain in the butt though, because we have to trek through all of WAAAAAAAY and get abducted by a virgin. From there, we have to run away from big bats and fall into a room where we fight off our abductors. Then we have to circle around the mountain where we find some dead dude who gives us big beam. I just speedran like 30 minutes of gameplay in 10 seconds there, so be grateful for that. At this point, we can't really do much else until we get into the capital, so we might as well take on our second shard bearer, Radahn. Now, I'm not afraid to use summons here because this fight would be impossible for us without them. We started this off by running in at full speed and letting Jarbro aggro him. Next, I tried to help as much as possible, and by that I mean camping in the back and firing little dots. When second phase hit, I just did the exact same thing, except slightly further away. I'm sure this would have been a lot harder without the summons, but I'm just doing this for fun, so I'm not going to torture myself like that. Anyways, with 2 Great Runes in hand and the power of friendship still in my heart, we made our way back up to Altus, where we could challenge Draconic Tree Sentinel. Then I realized I never actually equipped Comet Azure, and I wasn't about to take this dude on with a pebble, so I had to run all the way back and grab 2 more memory stones. Along the way I also grabbed Somber 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. However, when I collected the first one, my mom called me and needed help with her computer, so now I have 18 minutes of this. After our first upgrade cycle, we returned to the Sentinel, and yeah, things were looking up. As you can see, he never even had a chance to move, and by the time he finished his first animation, he had to move on to the second one. This was a less than 10-second fight, which marks this as the easiest one we've done yet, and with the newfound power of Beam, we can move on forward and blow through the capital. Along the way, I decided to kill the Erd Tree avatar and get us a nice, big, voluptuous Lord's Rune. From there, we went up to challenge Godfrey. However, while our damage was good, so was his, and we were dying a fair few times. The old strategy wasn't working either, so I had to just resort to Pebble and stay back, which, while not optimal, seemed to be working fairly well. It was just a matter of remembering the moveset. From there, we moved on to Morgott, where we actually head back and kill Patches for the Shackle. The Shackle lets us bind Morgott to the ground twice, which, as you can probably see, goes hand in hand with Big Laser. Now, this technique can allow us to get through Phase 1 with no difficulty whatsoever. However, it has no effect in Phase 2, like, at all. So we have to fall back into our old ways using the classic starting sorcery. All jokes aside, this was still doing insane damage, and we had a huge chunk out of the health bar before bro even finished his second phase transformation. From that point, I just had to play my cards right, and surprisingly, I didn't crumble immediately. He dodged like 90% of my stones though, but we had more than enough FP to finish the fight, so it was time to move on to the Great Big Mountains. I forgot to mention, since runes mean nothing to us, I never really do anything in the actual areas besides running at full speed to the next one. Anyways, I did what I just said there and made it up to Fire Giant. At this point in the game, I think we should spice up our selection of spells a bit, and to do that, we have to make our second trip back to WAAAAAAY so we can get the Conspectress Scroll, which gives us the late, the great, Glintstone Comet Shard. This is effectively just a more buffed up version of our Glintstone Pebble, which is nice to have because despite what you guys might think, I actually do have a life, and I don't want to spend 15 minutes chipping away at a boss's health. Speaking of bosses, I think we should test out Comet on the Big Giant. I don't know if you guys watched my last video, but if you did, then you probably remember how much I struggled with this boss.
I hate this fight. I got got knocked off my horse every single time he did that stupid little shield upper. I made it right there at 25 minutes in, and I figured, oh, I should be a couple attempts away. This sucked. I hated it. I had to sit in my little cave up here for that long.
God, I sound so goofy at 2x speed. Anyway, I got hit by the shield upper thing that I talked about there, but miraculously, my horse was the only one to take the damage, which still sucks, but hey, him over me, am I right? From there, I was able to run up and get his 8-year-old ankle bracelet off, which allowed us to pop the physic and have him roll away before I even got to use the infinite FP. Oh well, our damage was still doing yellow, so that was something. We were able to transition to second phase without too much difficulty, and since he was closer to the ground now, we could absolutely spam him with glintstone comets. That's where we ran into a problem. See, our flask to magic ratio wasn't looking like enough, and if we ran out of FP, we're cooked. However, I apparently wasn't utilizing the charged up version of the attack, which was yielding significantly more damage with no hit to our FP cost. From there, it was smooth sailing to another victory for our knockoff Simpson. With the big man dead, we can move on up to the forge, which lets us burn the Erd tree and get teleported to Crumbling, Farum, Azula. Now, for whatever reason, the run to the first grace was very hard for me. It seemed like I couldn't set foot in there without triggering them to instantly kill me. On my third attempt, however, it clicked and I ran fast straight on through. The good luck was able to bring me all the way down to Godskin Duo, where I died. Literally, over and over. I realized that what I was doing very clearly was not working, so I decided to go back to Limgrave where he grabbed a Fever's notebook. This allows us to craft sleep pots, which are going to be insane in this battle. Now, it only takes 2 throws to get the big man down, and from there we can use the classic beam to kill him immediately. This is a good start because it means we only have to deal with a noble for a bit, which, with Glintstone Comet, was more than enough to take him down. Now, this is where the duo in Godskin Duo comes into play, because we miraculously have to fight 2 more guys, which, again, Comet. Overall, this fight wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it would be, and yeah, that makes just 4 more bosses ahead of us. Now I want to show you my epic platforming abilities. I remember being so proud of myself for that when I first played through the game. Anyways, I was expecting the lightning to be hard to get through, but it was actually incredibly easy. All I had to do was just watch. Who would have guessed? From there, we were able to take on our second tree sentinel, where we pretty much used the same strategy as the first one. For some reason though, he had the tiniest sliver of health, which was easy to take off with a comet, but still, so unsatisfying. Our dragon buddy was guarding our next boss though, Malekith the Black Blade, and somehow, in some way, the beam was actually working and took off about 1/3 of his health bar in the first 5 seconds. Awesome sauce. I was able to fire a few more glintstone comets, but accidentally used the beam at the end of phase 1, which was my oopsie. Either way, it brought us to his fun phase, where, as long as we applied the comet strategy, went really well. I almost lost everything at the end though, but a win is still a win, boys. A win is still a win. Next up on my agenda was touching the Tesla symbol because I desperately wanted one. However, it actually teleported me to a sandy wasteland. Boo. From the site of Grace, I just ran up to Gideon, where I was doing okay on until I decided to jump off the edge like a maniac. On my second attempt, I tried Comet Azure, and apparently this thing is catching W's left and right because we have some good damage again. Yeah! Gideon also sucks in general because our Comet was doing absurd damage to him. It don't get much better than this. As I was running up to Godfrey, I realized our staff was still only +5, so you know what that means. Somber 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, baby. Woo! I'm on fire. We can move on back to Ashen Capital now and try out the Elden Lord himself. On my first attempt, I tried to use our classic strategy, but I stood a bit too far away, and yeah, I'm cooked. On my second attempt, I actually dealt damage, but then got shot down with his axe. This repeated itself 3 more times before I realized we were at a roadblock. If only there was a way we could tank 1 hit without taking damage. Oh yeah, the Opaline Bubble Tier, way down in Weeping Peninsula. This thing's guarded by a tree avatar thing, and yeah, since he was standing still, he didn't stand a chance. With the power of shield in our hands, we can head back to Godfrey and do a whopping 6,589 damage. That's what I like to see. After I did that though, he put down his Earthshaker and rocked my world. With our strategy though, it was only a matter of time before he let his inner alpha out. Sadly for him though, I won't let myself get played around with like a baseball. And from there, he somehow dodged my spell. Oh well. Our charge attacks do more than enough damage to knock out this dweeb and move on to the final boss. Somehow, Radagon parried a literal laser beam. You're kidding me, Miyazaki. I've created my own mantra now. If the beam don't hit, you don't stick. So I had to go restart the battle because our beam didn't hit. Once my beam did hit, I had to lock in and become the dodging master, which is exactly what I did. With an easy phase 1, we can move on to Elden Beast. With a second easy phase 1, we can move on to Elden Beast. Oh yeah, we have to save the big Azure for him now because RFP does not last. However, it was highly worth it because it saved me a lot of headaches. Honestly, I'm getting tired of saying the same thing over and over, but you know what? We're at the end here, so I'm gonna spam it. Beam comment, beam comment, beam comment. I apologize for being so harsh, but it's true. We absolutely shredded through the game using that tactic. And you know, if you enjoy FarmSoft videos and challenge runs, then subscribe to me, because it's good and cool for you. Anyway, thanks for clicking on my video out of the 3.7 million uploaded every single day, and peace.